progress with all of us.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Yeah, go for it.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
With the schools.
These Zoom
Lights up
forums
yellow,
are
that's because they're hearing.
Sorry.
It lights up, the yellow lights up around the picture, that's the one way that they're hearing.
These Zoom forums are becoming quite easy to operate in these days of lockdown. However, and it's good to see people who I normally don't have a chance to meet across the screens on these Zoom forums, but I have taken the opportunity to mute you all, and you will see probably on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, there's a little cross across your microphone icon. So if you need to talk, you can either raise your hand, or if you start talking, we'll soon notice and ask you to unmute yourselves. I may just take the opportunity to read from Open with John Maxwell's Leadership Promises for Every Day, which is a devotional, which gives us a little extract from the Bible and a little commentary on how we can improve our leadership. And given as op managers, we do play a leadership role in the ministry areas we're involved with. So the reading today comes from John 13, verse 1. Just before the Passover feast, Jesus knew that the time had come to leave this world to go to the Father. Having loved his dear companions, he continued to love them right to the end. And the devotional expands on that to say, if you lead your team, you are responsible for making sure the revolving door through which current volunteers leave the organisation and new volunteers enter swings in such a way that better players are joining the team that are leaving. One of the ways you can facilitate that is to place high value on the good people you already have on the team. Every team has three groups of players. There are the starters, who directly add value to the organisation or who directly influence its course, and the bench players, who add value to the organisation indirectly or who support the starters who do. The third group is a core group within the starters that I call the inner circle members. These are people without whom the team would fall apart. Your job is to make sure each group is continually developed so that the bench players are able to step up to become starters and starters are able to step up to become inner circle members. If your treatment of key people doesn't match their value, you run the risk of losing them. On that, David, could I invite you to unmute yourself and give us a short word in prayer?
Absolutely. Let us pray. Loving and gracious Father, we give you thanks for each person gathered here today, for each op shop across this diocese. Lord, we give you thanks for all our coordinators, for all our volunteers, for all that they give of their time. Lord, we pray that you would continue to bless this. Bless this time now, that we may learn from each other. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Now, just a little word of introduction before I throw the screen across to Thomas Oakley and John Griffiths from the Drouin op shop. I'd just like to say how much we value the contribution that op shops make to the life of the diocese. And I think that there are two key contributions that we really value. One is the ministry aspects, the links that each of our op shops have with the communities really makes an incredible visible presence of the church active in their communities. And that is something that we never need to lose sight of. And the other, of course, is the funds that you all raise, which go a long way to supporting not only the communities in which you live, but the work of the parishes. And so we recognise the value that the op-shops bring to each of our parishes. And I can tell you that the last time I did the statistics in 2019, that op shops provided about 40% of all the revenue for the diocese. So you do an incredible job, and supporting you is something that we hope to do and only improve more greatly from where we go from here. So with an aspect of concentrating on how we can support you, I've gathered you together today to try and build a community amongst the op shop managers. And I know in the past you have gathered in person at various times to share ideas, support each other, and maybe we can, there's lots of interest shown, we can either continue this Zoom forum or we can aim to meet in person in various places across the diocese as time goes on. But there have been a few things unrolling in recent times, which there are many questions I received, which I thought would be good to bring people together today. And one of them is the work I've seen John and Thomas do with the Drouin op shop in developing an op shop, an online platform for selling goods online. So I'd like to shortly hand the microphone over to them. And as you will have seen in the brief agenda, also I'm beginning to receive lots and lots of questions around safe ministry and what the requirements are for op shop volunteers. And I know this is quite a topical issue, so much that it was raised in our synod this year, where a question was asked to say and to make sure that we consult with the op shops, we make sure that there's we bring op shops along with the requirements that we are under pressure to assume. So that comes from the wider community we serve, our insurers, being part of church organisations. So we're trying to strike the right balance between providing safe places, but also not to provide too much of a disincentive for our volunteer contributors. I've also invited someone from the South Australian Adelaide banking platform to come and provide some details of something that they're trying to develop, which is a plug-on standalone platform for op shops to use, because I know that you each have different systems and many of them work for you. Some of you find them more complicated than others, so I'm wanting to open that up as well. And then I hope just to open it up for you to see what issues you may have or ideas you'd like to share. So it really is hoping to draw on your experience as well. Is there anything else that I have left off the agenda which we should include today? If there is something, you'll have to unmute yourself or wave madly at me and
I'll have to unmute myself because I can't wave at you because I'm
Sure.
from there.
Sure.
I was talking to Reverend Fran the other day, and I was just mentioning the touchy subject about the vaccinations, and she sort of asked me to mention what may be the what everyone's thinking along that line. So I'm just sort of putting that into the mixture as well.
Okay, good. Thanks, Cheryl.
Richard, I think we touched on this at the Treasurer's Zoom, but I'd like to know what other op shops are doing in regards to GST or bills coming in, such as electricity. Are they being claimed? Are they not? And how is it being handled?
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Well, we'll try and sweep those up towards after our presenters. But over to you, John and Thomas. So Are you going first, John, or is Thomas coming in?
I think he's having some trouble unmuting himself or something.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, beautiful. How are you, Thomas and Richard and everybody else? Firstly, just a quick rundown on myself. I've taken over the manager's job at the Drouin Anglican Church op shop. When I came on here, I was given a job because I had a vision for the future of what I would think would work for our op shop, and along the way I've thought about other op shops as well. So I have 30 odd years experience in retail as an antique dealer, also 40 odd years, part of that as in the building industry as well. So I have a fair bit of experience doing what I do. The last 5 years of my antique business, I decided I needed to go online because that's the way the world was going. I built a website which was very slow at the start, and that's when I met Thomas probably about 12 months ago. And I spoke to Thomas, who's a bit of a IT guru, about how ways I can improve my website. So we've worked that out, and it's starting to work a treat. When I came here to the Drouin Anglican op shop, we had a lot of stock here because we'd been closed for COVID, as most of us have been, we all have been. And that's when I decided that we needed to go online with our business as well, because even though we were closed, we could still be selling our products and our items online. I've done some research that in the last 20 years, in online shopping has grown by 10%, and in the last 12 months it's now gone up to 14.4%, which in Australia, which is only going to get more and more as time goes on. So I believe that we've got this opportunity now to build a website and get it going. Now, with this website that Thomas has helped us build, we have, I spoke to Thomas about it because I thought, well, hey, it would be great to get other op shops from the diocese involved with this as well. So I spoke to Thomas. I said, look, is it possible for us to get other shops to join us to split the costs with building this, and it advantages all? He said, yep, we could do that. That's not a problem at all. He did some research into it for me, and he's worked it all out that we can add up to 5, 7 or 8 different people to our website. Our website at the moment is at the stage where it's just about ready for us to start loading products onto the website, and we're hoping by mid-September, which will be the 25th anniversary of our op shop, to be going online and being out there to the public to start buying and purchasing from us. So as I say, there's been a lot of work put into this, and there's still more work to be done in sorting this out. I've had a chat with Richard over the last couple of months about how I would like to see things work, about bringing the op shops together as one and building a brand. Richard agreed with me on this. So I've been working towards that. And now that we're getting to the point end of opening up our website, I would like to get out and speak to each and every one of you guys individually about coming on board, helping you guys as well with it. And this brings me to the advantages of having this website and bringing everybody into it. It would bring us all together. We can help each other with stock. We can help each other with valuing things, and many other advantages that I can't name at this point of time. But it has its advantages for the diocese and for our community as op shop managers and people. Has anybody got any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
John, you talk about a vision for your op shop. Can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, well, my vision, I've had planned. Well, I've put a plan together, and my vision is that I want to build an op shop for the future, where I can look after our community as well as our church. I want an op shop where the homeless can come and have a shower, a meal, wash their clothes and things like that. I also want to give them the opportunity to be able to even act as volunteers in these op shops, which, you know, I think most of you would agree volunteers are very hard to find. But I believe if we offer people who are homeless or things like that an opportunity to get some confidence to go out and get a job, we're aiding in other ways other than financial gain. So this is, you know, a big plan. It's not going to happen in 4 or 5 years. We're working on it. My main aim at the moment is to get this website up and running, because with the future of COVID, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Nobody does, but we could be locked down again next week, and then we're losing revenue, and that's no good to any of us, because we've got stock sitting there that we need to move. We've got stock coming and going all the time, and we just need to find another avenue of selling our goods. So that's just a quick rundown of my vision that I've got. I believe in working as a team and working together, and everybody being an us, not we or them. So that's who I am.
So can I ask a bit more specifically around the goods you're selling online? Do you tend to choose the high-end labelled clothing, or which items do you choose to list online?
We will be selecting our stock. Most clothing is our biggest sale. But everything we've got 3 shops, including our online shop. We have a shop in town which we put all our good stuff into, but we will also be putting our good quality stuff online. We want to build a product that people are happy to come to. We don't want problems with items being returned because they're not up to scratch or what they are. And this is part of the time building thing that we're working around things at the moment to make sure we have good quality control, and that the items that go on board are what they are, and we're building for our brand, so that our brand is recognised as quality secondhand goods. So yeah, that's what we're looking at.
And so how does the cost of postage still make it effective in selling goods items at a profit?
Postage, people are happy to pay for postage. I believe you're buying goods at a cheaper rate anyway online. That's one of the advantages of having a website. You can sell things cheaper. Obviously, we're op shops, and most of our goods are donated. Well, all our goods are donated. So, you know, we can do things a bit cheaper, and people are happy to do that because it saves them spending $5 or $10 driving down to a shop anyway to, you know, look for other things, or they can spend more time doing things that they need to do. They can just go online, pick out what they want, pay for it, pack and send, and they get it delivered to their front door within a few days. So depending on mail and where you are located. And that's the beauty of having an online shop. We're not just selling to our local community, we're selling everywhere else around Australia. We're not going overseas, we're just staying in our country, because there'd be too much messing around with changing of the dollars and things like that. So yeah, so that's the advantage of having, you know, what we're going to do, pick the select items and get them out there, and hopefully they sell.
Great. So I might handball across to Thomas now, who's done the work in building the website as an IT engineer and website developer. Tell us how it works, Thomas.
So the website is on the Shopify platform, which is so that's basically like a third-party cloud provider which supplies with supplies you with a content management system and also your.
Now, Thomas, I'm going to interrupt you there, and I'm going to get you to remove all your computer and IT language.
Sorry.
And give it a plain language description.
No worries, no worries. So basically Shopify, so it basically gives you the admin section of the site and the front end section of the site and connects them together. So it's giving you the system which you use to upload the products and accept payments, and that also links it to the customer facing side of the site where the customers purchase the products. So it's automatic. You as an admin or store manager, you go into the your administration portal, you add the product, and then it will automatically appear on the website with all the styling and be there ready for customers to purchase. Once a customer decides to buy that, it automatically comes back through to the admin thing. You'll see the order, and then you approve the order and you send it out, and then an email will automatically get sent to the client saying the email has been sent. The product's been sent out. How did I do with the non-technical?
No, it's great. So when you come to adding a product or listing a product, what's involved in that process? So are we talking photographs, a written description?
Yes, that's correct. So basically Shopify is very simple to use. There's not much you need to add. So you will be adding a title, a description, you'll be adding image, and then there is also options to add a stock keeping number to help with your inventory control. And then also you'll be adding a price. You can add a sale price. And there's also the options for how the product would appear on Google if someone is searching for it. The other option that you get is also the sales channel, because Shopify can push the product not just to the website, but it can also push the product to Facebook, Google Shopping, Amazon, eBay. There's various ones you can connect, so it will automatically push it out to anyone you've selected.
All right. So if I'm an op shop manager in the parish of Sleeping Hollow,
yeah,
what type of equipment do I need to join this?
To log in, you'll just need your computer. That's the only major piece of equipment that you'll need. So you'll need a browser obviously as well, but the only piece of hardware would be your computer. You log in through your browser. The other things I would suggest though is just for security reasons that you use a password manager, and you also have a mobile device with two-factor authentication enabled on it.
Okay, we're beginning to use computer speak again, Thomas.
So like the bank SMSs when you're doing a transaction, yeah. So
do I need a computer, or can I work this all off a mobile phone? Like, can I take the photos on a phone and upload it straight to
You can work it off a mobile phone. I wouldn't advise it. You can do it off an iPad as well. I just find it easier to do it off a computer. I know John manages his own store off his iPad, and he finds that fine. But I feel like with an iPad, it's just it's not as seamless as you're working.
Sure. All right. So in establishing this for Drouin, and I understand it's set to go live in a couple of weeks, how do you envisage other parishes being able to jump on board and use the portal that you've developed?
Well, John would have to go through developing like what the marketing side of it's going to be called, like how it'd be called. Like at the moment, what we have is the Drouin Anglican Op Shop and Warehouse. So, and that's what we're running with at the moment. And I believe what should happen is if everyone comes on board is that it has a unified name, like for the whole group. And then all we'll build that, and then all that will need to happen is I can come out to each of the parishes and show everyone how to log on, how to set up the security settings on it. And so basically the main things I need to go through with them is how to post a product up to the site and the sales channels, and how to process an order. And then after that, all that will need to happen is from any of the stores, they'll just need to log in, they'll post the product, and then the order will come through, and then it gets sent out. So there's not really too many steps involved once it's all running and initial training has been done.
All right, thank you. I might open it up to the group now and ask, Joe's got a hand up, but you can go first, but then I'd like to hear who is already running online sales. The other question is, are there op shops who are interested in coming on board? So it's just some feedback. So over to you, Joe.
Okay, Thomas,
Yes.
money. So what happens? How do you pay? How does the church receive the money?
Okay, so the Shopify is a Shopify payments service. So that's provided by Shopify, and it's basically an online merchant facility run by Shopify. It's all integrated with your account. It signs up and you basically enter your details, and the money is paid into from Shopify to that account.
So in layman terms, I understand that a person makes a purchase online and that money is deposited straight into your individual parish bank account.
Yes, correct.
Is there a cost for setting this up, or what is the cost for setting it up?
The cost at the moment was, so basically it's my fee, but the Shopify ongoing fees, it depends how many locations you have. And if there's, I believe John was saying you have about 7 to 8. Is that shops? Is that correct, John?
Yeah, well, we were hoping we would get 7 to 8 shops on board. If we can get more, that would be awesome. Look, this is going to be a work in progress. It's people are going to be a bit tentative about it, I believe. But once they see it working, I'm hoping that more and more of you guys will come on board. Richard, you spoke to me about being a monkey for this. We'll see how you guys go with it, and if it works, so then we'll all think about joining in and things like that. So we're a work in progress for you guys to watch, and if you can see that it's working like I hope it will, you guys will jump on board with that. So
if I can just jump in, I'm Susan. Hello. Basically, the Drouin Anglican Church has taken on the expense of setting up the website and getting everything established. And then if any other parish jumped on board with their op shop, there would be an ongoing subscription to Shopify per year, which varies according to how many we have. So if there's just us, it's a couple of $100 a year, I believe. And if there was several different places, then the price goes down to an annual subscription for the use of that Shopify platform.
So I think probably the message by this is not that Drouin is seeking to rake in fees from the op shops, but if any op shop seeks to move to online trading, there are costs involved. But it does sound as if the more people who come on, then those costs can be shared and minimised.
Yes,
that's correct, and that's our plan. We're not here to make money out of anybody else. We're just my aim is to bring everybody together, and not just because of the online shop of it, but about working together. In regards to pricing, if another shop is short of clothing or something and we've got an abundance of it, we can help you guys out, or you can help us out. It's about bringing our op shops together as a community and as part of our diocese I believe we should be operating like that. It's not us, it's not them, it's we. We're all together in this, and we're all doing this for the same reason. And I think if we can all work together, we can make something along the lines of Vinnies and Salvos, but better. I don't want to lose any of our country feel, our cheap prices or anything like that. It's just about being who we are, what we represent, but making our brand bigger and better together. And that's my vision, part of my vision. So,
right. So can I invite, are there other op shops that are already selling online? And I think David Perryman, would you like to come on board at this point?
We're not selling online, Richard, but
Oh, okay.
I'm liking the sound of it.
Meg Knight. You're muted. Yes, right. That's right. You're muted, Meg. And
Sorry, I'm Meg Knight from Corner Inlet Parish, and we have an op shop in a very small town called Tura. We've been using eBay very successfully for items of higher quality, and I think we've been doing so for about 2 years now. We've been blessed in that the church hasn't had to pay for a computer in the op shop or a Wi-Fi package to make the actual shop online. Our senior op shop person does that from home. And we do free packaging because on items over a certain level, because we find many people who are trading online do offer that, and if you don't offer that, you might not get the sale. But it's been really, really successful.
great. And what percentage of your sales are now online, Meg?
In terms of money or in terms of items? In terms of money, we'd be earning, because they're high quality items, we'd be about 35%.
Wow.
But
if you're selling
I accept that we haven't got the vision that's been expounded, which I really like, which is that we've got an Anglican op shop brand and that sort of thing. So we haven't got that vision that would be behind this wonderful idea from Drouin.
Yeah. It's probably a point of discussion for our next op shop gathering, because people often ask me, why don't we have common branding across all our op shops? And so that's something that I'd like to put out there. We all have our different names and different fit outs in our shops, and for many people walking across the street into our stores, they may not identify or know that there is a commonality between our op shops, and whether if we were to become like the Vinnies and have a common branding, whether that would increase the sales and the quality of goods we would receive or have opportunity to sell. So that's probably a topic for another day. Are there any other comments or questions around online sales? Because I noticed Roger Blythman has just joined us as well. Yes, Linda.
Well, I was just going to throw in that we haven't deliberately done this in a sense, but we're the Coronella op shop, St George's op shop in Coronella, and we have been putting little advertisements without prices on Facebook, basically 5 or 6 days a week, and we have had people requesting to buy items off that, which have been being posted out. So, so there's definitely a market for that without question, you know, for selling online, I think.
All right. So my last question of you, John and Thomas, is what are the next steps for us to bring people on board? Is that something that through the registry we should work together, or something that Drouin would like to work out?
I believe. Look, can you hear me there?
Yes.
Unmute. Yeah, you can hear me. Yeah, cool. Look, I'm happy to work with whoever on this. As I say, I'm relying on Thomas a lot with his experience. I have my own experience, but I don't have the experience that he has. This is going to be a learning project, learning experience for us all. It's something that we're going to make sure before we put it out there that it's set up professionally and everything else is done right. Once I'm got all this ready to go, I want to start ringing you guys up and making it a time to come out and visit you and explain to you what I can do and what we can do as a team to bring this vision of mine together to make it all work. So, Richard, I'll keep in touch with you, obviously, and just let you know what we can do together. If we need your help, we've sent some paperwork through you guys for you guys to look at about rules and regulations and things like that, which you should have received by now. Yeah, so I'm happy to come out and have a chat with anybody about this. So if you want to call me, you get my number off Richard, and I'll be in touch anyway over the next few weeks now that we're out of lockdown again, and I'll come and visit to you and explain to you, and I can start showing you in the next few weeks how it's all working and what's going on. Okay.
Thanks, John. Thanks,
you got
Thomas.
anything, Thomas?
No, I think that sounds all good.
All right. You're welcome to stay on. I'm not kicking you off, but I will move on now to the question of safe ministry. And
one question.
This is a landscape that is rapidly changing. The expectations that are sweeping across the church as to what we require of our volunteers in churches has changed rapidly in the last few years. And the pressure for that change has come from the Royal Commission into the way organisations have responded to abuse. And there have been lots of learnings around especially how church and religious organisations have failed people in the past. And so we are, within our churches, we're needing to provide robust systems to ensure that vulnerable people and children are protected, and that our churches are a safe place for everyone to come to. And from that raises a question, so what about our volunteers? What about our people who have no connection to the church, but they volunteer their time and they mow the lawns outside in the church, or they prune the roses, or they do the flower arranging? And what about op shop volunteers? And it really is a live issue, and we haven't settled yet as to what the standards may be. And so that's why we'd like to consult with you to get feedback as to what your views are and what your hopes are in relation to this. I understand it's a balancing act between not wanting to deter our volunteers, and this is happening now at a time when volunteer organisations across the country are reporting that since the coronavirus struck, there has been a great withdrawal of volunteer contribution to organisations, and that's not specific to churches and not specific to op shops, but it is a national trend that is happening. So volunteers are harder to find, and I've heard many people finding that's your experience in op shops as well. That's on the one hand, we don't want to deter our volunteers. On the other hand, we have expectations from our insurer who says the community views a church-based op shop as being a church activity, and we need to respond as if we were in the courts, we'd be the best model litigants, or in the community, we are model champions of safety, so that we can say to the broader community, we take safety seriously, and therefore we require standards of all our people who come on board. And then we also have competing op shops who also have different levels of standards required. So I know if I go and volunteer at Vinnie's, I'm required to do a police check and a working with children check, and the same with the salvos. So we need to ask, well, why is the Anglican Church any different? So I don't have an answer, and I don't know what the solution is, but I'd love to consult with you as to, A, what you're doing now, and what you think is reasonable. Over to you. And before we do, I'd just like to introduce Roger. Roger Blythman was installed as the Chancellor for the diocese in February of last year, replacing Rowena's length of service of about 30 years. So Roger, you've got a few years to settle in before hopefully a long contribution to make. And maybe shortly you can explain what the role of a Chancellor is and why you've come along today. Roger, do you want to actually just introduce yourself? Yes, you will.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard, and hello, everybody. Role of the Chancellor is a legal one to advise the Bishop, basically, on legal matters affecting the diocese. And these days, those matters are now far and wide, including things like the issues of the safe ministry requirements and dealing with insurance. I'm not so much the hands-on person for that, because the diocese has solicitors who do a lot of the actual hands-on work. But so my job is to be available to give general advice to the bishop and to the registrar, of course, and to the diocese generally. Big shoes to fill after Rowena, whom I've known for many, many years. So I've come to succeed her with a degree of trepidation, but commitment to the diocese to do the very best I can to assist you all.
Thank you, Roger. And I did invite Roger to come along today because at this year's synod, there was a motion put forward by you, members of the parishes, wanting to ensure that the standards we require of our volunteers are appropriate for the standard of the safety needs that are to be met. So they really questioned us to go through a consultation process to talk with you, to find out what your fears are, what your concerns are. So anyway, enough of introduction. I think, Gail, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Gail Sands from Malakuta. Jude just wanted to question whether we really needed the working with children's, because in the information it talks about sustained contact with unaccompanied children, and in an op shop that really doesn't happen.
Yes. I think it's probably the worst thing as it ever happened. It was called the working with children check. Had it been called the working with vulnerable people check, as it is in Queensland or some other states, it might remove the confusion that we have. So in some ways, I wish we could change our focus and thinking that it's only to do with children, but it's more to do with working with vulnerable people. So I'm not saying that that is the standard that is required, but part of one perspective I have is that the volunteers who contribute to our op shops are members of the community and not necessarily linked to the church. And we know how right the churches are for grooming and for abusers to come in and form part of that community. Well, how much more vulnerable are our op shops when we don't have the knowledge and the relationship with people who come in? Of course, we get to build the relationships over time, but there's just one length removed of vulnerability that I think our op shops present. That's just my perspective. Yes, John, or not John?
Susan.
Susan, yeah.
Susan.
My perspective is, and I've asked all my volunteers to add, a lot of my volunteers or our volunteers at Drouin have already got working with children check and police checks because they need them for other places that they volunteer. So all I've had to do is ask people to add a religious organisation and specify the op shop on the working with children check online. My attitude is based on a personal experience, because anywhere where you have a volunteer who is in public and can be with children under the age of 18, they have an opportunity to abuse your child. It only takes 10 minutes. So as far as I'm concerned, of course, anyone who is a volunteer in the Anglican Church op shops must have a working with children check. And I found that people here have been very understanding. It's expected from other organisations. However, I will say that the only people we've actually asked for working with children checks are those people who have contact with the general public. So for example, we've got a lot of people who do sorting and they're not out and about in the public. They don't sell things. They're only in the back half of our warehouse. Haven't asked them for a working with children check. We don't have anyone under 18 here, but we do for anyone who serves in the shop or serves on the counter. And my experience is that, you know, someone who was highly respected in the church, who had been in the church for over 20 years, who everybody thought the child who made the accusation was lying, actually committed an offence, an assault on a child, and we ended up having to have meetings with bishops and legal, and it was a whole horrible mess. And the only thing I can say is at least this man said, yes, I did it. I have a problem. The opportunity was that for the first time ever, there was not two adults with a child. And when that opportunity was there, the temptation was too much, and he did something. And this man had been in the church for years and everyone trusted him. So I'm sorry, but I'm a big person. You need, if you're going to be anywhere where you can be alone with a child for more than 10 minutes, you need a working with children check.
And just backing up on that, Richard, I work in the NDIS industry, and the paperwork now is getting scrutinised. I now have to have a police check, a working with children's check, and I also have to have what they now call an NDIS check, which is over the top police check. It's just phenomenal. I just believe that by not having these working with children's checks, we're leaving ourselves open to litigation or problems down the track. I just really think you've just got to do it, because it's the way the world is going. You know, we didn't expect 9/11 to happen. We didn't expect COVID to happen. We don't expect things to happen, but they find their way of happening. And as I say, the world is changing, and it's just for the better, bringing these things in.
So can I ask, of op shops that have asked their volunteers to do working with children checks, has there been much obstruction? Dorothy?
No.
No, not at all. But the problem is that
it's the whole system is quite cumbersome and at times very hard to do and slow, but it, you know, everyone's done it. But my other point is, I wonder whether it makes much difference anyway.
I'll also comment. We have appointed, as most churches have, someone in charge of. Alison was very good. She came in and spoke to a lot of our ladies. I understand exactly the philosophy behind it all, and I think it's all very necessary too. Unfortunately, who we're dealing with in our organisation is mainly 75 and 85-year-old ladies. And while they mentally could say, yes, they understood it completely as well, their gut reaction was, but look at me. I've been here for X, Y, Z. Do I really need to do this? So we had to really take and work around it. And Alison came in and just chatted. And then by the end, every one of ours has come in and said, yep, no worries, we're doing it. But it did take a little bit of, you know, yep, we're on your side, but you be on our side as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, Sandy? We just can't hear you. I'm sorry, Sandy.
Is that better?
Yes.
We have also an officer, Tracy, who is really good, and we have found that with her working one-to-one with people, they then don't object. A lot of people object not to the philosophy, but actually doing it, you know, doing stuff online and so on. They don't know how to work it. And so once they've got one-to-one tuition, we haven't had any problems. And so we are aiming for our op shop volunteers to be completely through the safe ministry system.
Awesome. Well, it's probably timely for me to pop in and say, in the registry, we're looking to employ someone 1 day a week to come out to parishes and help people go through the process, because we do recognise that for some people it is a burden that is quite complicated, and just that in itself is putting an obstacle before people. So we're looking to, in the next couple of weeks, to start that, but across 30 parishes that will take a while to get to, but also understanding that for our dear friends in Malakuta, where internet is unreliable and all those things take so much longer, we're looking to also send someone out to help with that process. But can I ask some more feedback? Has it been a problem rolling this out?
Ignoring me.
No. We've had no problems at all. Everybody's been on board with it. They all understand why we're doing this.
No, Mr.
Treasurer, I'll just make me
Tell them who you are, everybody.
Am I on?
Yep, just speak up.
Hello,
Hi there.
I'm Robin from St George's at, excuse me, at Coronella, the Coronella Church and Op Shop. I'd just like to say that we've had police and children's check done, and we didn't have any problems with any of our volunteers being worried about going through the process. Mary Hodgson, one of our treasurers,
secretary.
Our secretary, she did a lot of it online for us, and also Colin, our minister, helped with other people with applications, as some of the volunteers aren't really tech savvy. So no, we didn't have a problem.
Over 75.
Over 75. So no, there was no problem at all with us going ahead with that, and we'll continue to do that also.
Yeah.
All right. So an open question is, so where should the standard be? What is the requirement? If you were on the Safe Ministry Authority and had to make this decision, what should we require of our volunteers?
Well, Richard, I was wondering, the diocese was going to make up a form for us to be able to pass on to the volunteers to make it easier for them to come on board, because I think sometimes when it just comes from us, but we say, look, we have a standard which we have to follow. I'm wondering how that's going. But also, does anyone have any connection with the Salvation Army church that has a form already that, you know, that will help us to decide, you know, and look at what they're also doing? I also had a request from someone to come and work at our op shop so that they can get their Centrelink payment. And I needed to needed to fill out a form, which is a request for organisational approval, which was an SU 461 form. But when I went to do that yesterday, they said that only Sale had one for under the Diocese of Gippsland.
No, Drouin has one.
Drouin has also.
Yes.
Is there a general one, so for the whole of the diocese, that we can plug into, or?
This is an interesting topic, and it really relates to how friendly your Centrelink office is and the person you're talking with. So some Centrelink officers are philosophically opposed to the church, and they will not accept any volunteers working in religious organisations as satisfying their Centrelink obligations, and others open up the doors and they encourage it. So it really is on a case-by-case basis. So I'm often called to help parishes with their processing of those forms, and I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for, I've lodged it in, I'm just waiting to hear back from them.
All right, so coming back to, so I'm more than happy to help with you offline around that, Genevieve.
Richard, one of the things that I did with our volunteers is we've done, as other people have said, it's actually a lot easier if you do the work online. So I actually made appointments with each of our volunteers, and they came into the office and I did everything on the diocese website that they needed, working with children check, police check, whatever they required. The only other thing is we looked at a document to be a code of conduct for our volunteers, because when we looked at the faithfulness in ministry abbreviated document, we felt that it wasn't as relevant to volunteers working in an op shop as it is to, say, someone serving on a parish council. So we actually developed our own code of conduct, which is really based on a lot of code of conducts that I'd seen online, and I put it together, and then I submitted it to parish council. So all our volunteers now sign a contract that says that they will abide by the code of conduct, as well as, you know, they have a police check and a working with children check, as I said, if they are working with the children. So I'm thinking that a code of conduct with the police check and working with children check if required.
Let me endorse that, Richard, if I may. Down in Yarram, just going back a little bit, we've had to restructure the op shop because the leaders of the op shop would not sign the higher up. I've forgotten what it's called now. The
ministry check.
Yeah, the ministry check. They would not sign that, and we're not going to comply to it. So we had to get rid of our leaders and had to restart from scratch with our volunteers and everything else. But the volunteers that have come on are new, and they have, Jenny has taken them aside and done all the working with children's card and the police check online, and found it very simple, and they were very happy to do that one-on-one. So that's probably a very good way to go. Picking up also on the code of conduct, Jenny has found that there was a document in the past put out by the diocese called Joys and Responsibilities of Being a Member of this Parish,
yes.
which Jenny says really is a good summary of good sort of code of conduct. And that's what we have implemented in Yarram as our code of conduct. I just mention it for people who may want to, if it's still on the website, source it. But it's certainly not the 40-page one that was there, faithfulness and service.
Yeah. So the diocese has almost come up with a final code of conduct until Synod came along and asked this question of us to make sure that we do set the standard right. And part of Roger's involvement is a question that arises from this is who is a volunteer and who is a church worker? And that's a legal argument of which, like all legal questions, there are two answers depending on how you view the situation. So who is a volunteer? And it's someone who comes along and mows the lawn and never steps inside a church. You would say, well, that person is a volunteer and needs a different standard. But for someone who drives down the street and sees that person outside mowing the lawn every Wednesday morning outside the church, they would think that that person has been accepted and endorsed by the church. So when that person then goes and engages in some act of misconduct, they blame the church rather than that volunteer. So these things never have a simple and clear answer. Roger, do you want to feed into that?
Well, I can only agree with what you're saying, Richard, but then we come to the situation where people make claims and they have to be dealt with. And if we've got a situation where our insurers are asked the question about whether the lawnmower man had actually gone through the appropriate checks and we haven't done it, well, our insurance may not operate and the diocese may well be left having to pick up the whole potential claim out of its own funds rather than being able to claim on the insurance. So I think it's a risky thing. Lawyers are risk averse, as you know, and I think at this stage in the environment which we are living, that you'd have to assume that anyone, even the vaguest association with the church, would be regarded probably by lawyers or claimant lawyers as being a church worker.
My personal observations are that as church organisations, we need to make a bold statement of mission into our communities that op shops are an essential part of our ministry and it's a part of our parish ministry, and part of being the collected people of God, we value justice and we value protecting the innocent. And part of that ministry comes with a burden, carrying the cross as it is. And that may mean that we ask our volunteers to go through a process which is a pain in the butt to fill out forms. But it's something that we can then go to the community and say proudly that we take safety of everyone who walks into our shop seriously, and we do that by asking our volunteers to be fully compliant. But I recognise the balancing act as well of it's hard to get volunteers and we don't want to put any obstacle in the way in driving them away from contributing. So it is a balancing act.
You say there's a balancing act, Richard, but you know the safety of anybody, not just kids, has got to come first. Yeah, obviously we need volunteers, but I'd rather have a group of volunteers that are on board with where we're all thinking than having somebody who can just come in because we need them, who may be a problem. I just think it's all about protecting the innocent, and yeah, that's got to come first all the time.
Right. Can I ask for a contrary view to stand up and say, hang on, does anyone disagree? Go for it, Meg.
Am I on mute, Richard, or?
No, you.
I was wondering, what is the minimum that our insurers have asked for? We've had a bit of pushback in our op shop. Some of it, the practicalities, which have already been alluded to, the age of our volunteers, the practicality, they are quite happy with the police check. It's this working with children check where you've got to have your photographs, so we've got to put them in the car because you can't get it done in the little town where our op shop is. And I'm wondering, has the insurance company given us a minimum standard?
It has, yes. It has said that all our church operations need to be have model standards. We need to be seen by the community as putting safety first, and it requires police checks and working with children checks.
Okay. Gee, righto.
When it comes to
The problem in our op shop is that only one person is actually a church-going person. So it's quite difficult to, I'll just have to try harder.
Well, when it comes to the practicalities, that's why we're sending Val Jones out in a hot little red car to come and help you all do your applications online.
Yeah, well, I've offered to. We're happy to do that for them. It's just been a bit of pushback, but obviously you've all done it, so I'll have to sell harder.
Well, when it comes to selling the message, I'd also like to refer you to the diocesan website, where Bishop Richard has just posted recently a short 5-minute clip on his views on safe ministry. And I was actually quoting him when I was talking about each of us asked to carry a burden in our ministry. I was quoting the Bishop in his presentation around that. It's on our YouTube channel at the moment, but as soon as this meeting is finished, I'll post it up on our website, gibbsanglican.org. Give me half an hour after this meeting and I'll put it up for you all to have a look at.
Richard, could I just sort of say something with not just with Corumburra, but with I think everyone Australia-wide. We have our volunteers at the op shop, but they also volunteer like for Meals on Wheels and different things like that. And I think the biggest problem is, why do they have to have a police check for everything? Why can't they just have one police check for? And I think that's been the biggest bugbear of people having to have police checks and everything.
One and I just use it for everything.
Yeah.
And in some ways that process is made easier with working with children checks, with either the person themselves or with help can just add another organisation onto them working with children checks. So that's type of the thing that either your parish SMO or someone from the registry can help you. Now, Janet, I think you wanted to say something.
Yes, I was just going to ask about the Safe Ministry Training Day. So does that include not just police check, working with children check, and a full day Safe Ministry training?
No, we're not asking our volunteers to do the Safe Ministry training. Yes, Beth?
Yes, Richard. I'm neither of our two more op shop ladies than me has been able to connect, but I've been checking with them and asking about the police checks, and I'm being told that about 70% would have no trouble and the others just don't want to go to the bother. So whether that's any different from anybody else, I don't know.
Can I just add that we've had a few people who have done children's ministry. We haven't required it for op shop volunteers yet, but children's ministry we have, obviously. And I've had people just come into the rectory with me, we've done the paperwork online together. It's been no problem. I think it's the easiest thing. And I get quite disturbed when people say it's a pain, because it's not. It's just half an hour of your time and then it's done. It's not too difficult at all.
All right. Now, GST. Joe, you have a question to ask.
Yeah, so at our last Treasurers Forum, I can't remember who it was and I apologise, said that they, with the bills they get, such as electricity, that they claim the GST from the op shop's bill. I'm just wondering, is this okay, or how do you do it, or what other op shops are doing in regard to GST?
So just to clarify that question or that answer that was given, is that in one parish, the op shop isn't registered for the GST, but the parish was. And so the parish was paying the op shop electricity bills, so it could claim back the GST. What are others doing?
Drouin's registered with the Australian Tax Office and submits BAS statements every quarter to claim back our GST.
Is that just the parish bank account, or does that include the op shop bank account? Are they one or two BAS forms?
The situation in Drouin is we actually have a different ABN number to the church. So we've actually, which is not what we're supposed to. So don't go out and get an ABN number or Richard will kill me. Sorry, Richard. But we're registered with the Australian Tax Office, and so we claim the GST back on everything that we purchase for the op shop. So for example, John's been building some racks to hang clothing off and stuff. So all those building supplies, we claim back the GST, the milk and biscuits and coffee that we give the volunteers, the chemicals for cleaning. We keep a record of the GST on all those products, and then we claim all that back and it goes into our bank account.
So that's two separate BASs.
Yeah, the parish treasurer does a BAS and we do a BAS.
Yep. Okay.
But for most parishes, there will only be the one GST registration, and that is for the church account. So it'd be interesting to hear what others do.
We pay all the expenses out of the church account and claim back the GST. And the op shop income is regarded as fundraising and doesn't, GST is not included.
Are there two bank accounts, Meg, or one?
There are two bank accounts. Actually it's separate banks, but we pay all the expenses out of the bank account that's registered for GST.
Thank you.
And my advice before Roger comes in is saying I think that's entirely appropriate to do. That the Anglican Diocese is a registered charity with the ACNC, and part of that gives us a number of tax breaks, and including GST exemption. So we are entitled to claim those, and it really is, it's just an administrative way we operate the diocese functions, that we have separate bank accounts for our op-shops and for our parishes, but they're the same entity, and so that entity is then recording to the tax office expenditure and income. So I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you.
GST is a complex issue, and you'll get different answers depending on who you ask.
I agree with you, Richard.
Good. Tony.
I have heard scuttlebutt that if we sell rags, we have changed the product and therefore we've got to charge GST. Is that correct?
That's what we've been told too.
Yeah, we charge GST on our rags because then the tradies can get a receipt for it and claim back that on their tax. So that's why we've been doing that with our rags.
So we would need a receipt book then or something if we were to sell rags.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think there's a legal requirement for that.
Okay.
It's not unusual to go into an op shop and to buy a bag of clothes for $2. Whether they can be used, you have no control as to what a person does with those goods when they walk out the door. They may go and turn them into rags. They may wear them to a ball with the Queen.
Well, that's right, but this is when we've actually cut up shirts and trousers and stuff like that. We've changed the product.
I wouldn't invest too much into this, Tony.
Okay, righto.
Yes, Pam. You just muted there. I just have to call on to Pam to come and unmute you.
Is that right?
Yes, that's good.
Oh, hang on. Is that right now?
Yes.
Yep. Fossey Confined. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. At Fossey Confined, we change clothes to rags with the rag machine, and we've always paid GST.
Hi.
Have to ring it up on the register as rags, and that gets shown on our BAS statement.
All right. Now, the last issue is vaccinations. And I think this issue is actually more of a broader one around how we protect the safety of our volunteers. And typically our volunteers are of an age profile where they are more vulnerable to the impacts of COVID. And I think we have an obligation to protect our volunteers at a different standard to what the state requires of retail. And I remember advising many people during the 6 months of lockdown we had last year, in that you need to make decisions suitable to the context of your op shop. And some op shops put protocols in place where goods would be stored for 2 weeks as to for the virus to become inert if donated goods are contaminated. I think people put those in place. We had various protocols put in place around there being a division between the sorting and the front of house staff in op shops. There are a range of different things that can be done to protect our volunteers, and vaccinations is one of them. And vaccination in itself isn't a way of ensuring that our volunteers are safe. What it does is actually just lower the risk that our individuals have. So my understanding is, now that I've had my 2 shots, I no longer have the risk profile of someone of my age, but I now have the risk profile of someone who's 20 years younger. And so if I'm a 70-year-old volunteer in an op shop and I go and have a vaccination, my risk profile drops, but I'm still vulnerable to coronavirus. So I think each of our op shops needs to put safety planning in place around how we respond to the ongoing risks of electronic sales. Is just one way of removing handling of cash. That could be a safety thing you put in place. That's probably a way of opening the discussion up as to what people think, but I don't think there's a one clear expectation that we can put on to say you have to have a vaccination if you want to work in our hospitals. What do people think about that?
I think it's important that we promote this vaccination business, but then it becomes an individual thing. Some people refuse to have it. We can't force people to do that. It's like kids have a right, adults have a right as well when it comes to this. There's got to be other methods that we can use, like with shields in front of the counters and things like that. People wearing gloves PPE and all that other stuff that goes with it. But enforcing a vaccination on people, I've had it too, so I'm like you, Richard, but not everybody, it's not for everybody. My mother won't have it because she's worried about getting blood clots. So, you know, the elderly people have these issues and worries, and over time they'll probably get the jab done, but it's just a matter of them learning and appreciating what the jab can do for us.
Yeah, it may be the case that some of our volunteers are at an increased risk, whether they have health issues or immunocompromised, are on various medical treatments, and that may place them in a category where they're more vulnerable than others. And I think it's our responsibility to let people make their own decisions around their risks and what they're prepared to assume. And there's no doubt that being in the front of public in a retail space is a risky activity at the moment, and we need to invite people to make their own risk assessment depending on their own health issues as to whether it's suitable to them or not.
Yep.
Any other comments? Yes, from Western Port.
Hello, I'd just like to say that I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but myself personally, I won't be having the vaccine for quite some time yet, just due to some medical conditions. I'm a previous stroke. But I do believe that if we just, for myself personally, if I keep up with my COVID cleansing, gloves, sanitising, washing down of all the counters, you know, even still, you know, a bit of social distancing and, you know, making sure that people are using the barcode when they enter. People that don't have the barcode, we also, we sign them in ourselves so that we're not getting cross-contamination with pens, even though you can cleanse the pens. But no, for myself, I'll be waiting a while before I take the vaccine, and yeah, I suppose it's just personal choice and medical reason also.
Great, thank you. Dorothy?
Yeah, can I just also make a comment, and I think I'm speaking rightly, can I just stress the importance that the manager or whoever is in charge on the day has the right to pull customers up if they're not wearing a mask, if they're not, you know, refusing the barcode. Our manager was, you know, a bit concerned. She said, you know, she sometimes gets this, oh, you can't make me concept. Yeah. And I said, no, that's fine. If they won't wear it, they can leave. Am I right in telling her that?
You are, because is it worth $1,600 fine in allowing someone to walk into your shop and not being compliant?
Good, thank you.
Could I just, sorry, you sort of have, we've had the case of a couple of people say they've got an exception to wearing a mask, and I've had 3 cases. 2 of those people have had sort of, they've shown me their name and their phone, you know, their address and everything, and if I had any problem, they were lovely people. And I had one particular person, and I mean, she was definitely, I'm pretty sure she didn't have any reason to have an exemption. And that's where it's hard. It's just a pity that there wasn't some sort of card or something so that if they did have an exemption, they could show it, and it would put us not in such a predicament as to being
yellows.
So
I just accept it.
These are difficult issues, and people do have the freedom and the right not to wear a mask. But as managers of a retail space, you also have the freedom and the right to ask people to leave your premises. And I would encourage you to call the police in these days of acute COVID risk.
I mean, we've never, if we sort of, someone comes into the shop and we might, you know, would you just say to them, look, would you mind putting him, oh, I forgot, you know, yeah. And 99% of the people have been fantastic, but it was just this one person. So, that's just sort of part of life.
Great. Now we've gone way over time, and thank you. This has been a wonderful conversation. now an open forum. Are there things that people would like to discuss, or should we defer on to another, a similar event down the track a bit? What would people like to do?
I'll sit with you next
Yeah,
time.
it was all right. I spoke about the GST thing.
I think quite a bit was covered. Maybe we could, if no one else has got any other questions, we could have another meeting some other time.
Gives people a chance to something else.
I see a few nods, and it would be great to invite Drouin to display their portal when it's up and running.
Yeah,
So
we'd love to do that, Richard. It's look, I'm really excited about this. It's
to see it because
I can see it doing great things for our community, our op shop community. So we'll keep you posted. I'll catch up with you in the next couple of weeks, and when we're ready to launch it, I'll let you know, and you can be in attendance or join online, whatever. If anybody else would like to get some information, feel free to call me. I'll try and get out and speak to as many of you as I can, and explain to you how I see all this working. Okay.
well, it is great to meet in person, and there's nothing like that. But it's been wonderful today having people all the way from Malakuta to Cowes.
yeah,
That's
and
almost 500 kilometres in distance from one end of the diocese to the other. So I know Zoom is a wonderful enabler of us gathering without the need to travel. Maybe in a month's time we could look to hosting another event coming on board.
We could talk about branding.
Yes.
Yeah,
branding.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're working on with our website. With the synod the other week that Richard released, they were talking about us as the Anglicans, and I kind of like that name, Anglican, as we can do anything together as a group together. So I'm leaning towards that name, but we're obviously going to be open to everybody coming in on this that wants to be a part of our website and community. So we're open to that sort of thing as well.
All mind you don't get taken for a patent with comments.
Yeah, I think the Commonwealth Bank might take us to court over that one.
Yes, just be careful
Well,
with that.
you know,
Richard,
we will, and we'll do everything legally, right? But there's other options out there too. So
Richard,
Well,
you did
let's
mention
aim to meet in a month's time, and let's have a focus on whether we can have some commonality between our op shops. Whether it's
you did
branding
mention
and
on the agenda. Richard, you mentioned on the agenda you had someone coming from the bank. What's happening?
Yes, I did, and they unfortunately haven't been able to join us today.
Right, okay.
But we can roll that into.
Sandy, you got any last word?
We've been told.
So please email me if there's anything you would like to add. And before we go, Beth, you've got your hand raised.
The recording that you're making today, when will that be available?
I'll try and put it up this afternoon.
Oh, okay, thank you. Good, thank you.
And it will also, I might ask David if he could put the Bishop's message up on the website.
Will do.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your contribution. It's been wonderful.
Thanks,
Please
Richard.
send a message if there's anything.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.